The Great Wall of China is a series of fortifications that were built across the historical northern borders of ancient Chinese states and imperial China as protection against various nomadic groups from the Eurasian steppe. Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC, with selective stretches later joined by Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, around 220 to 206 BC. Little of the Qin wall remains. Later on, many successive dynasties built and maintained multiple stretches of border walls. The best-known sections of the wall were built by the Ming dynasty from 1368 to 1644. Apart from defense, other purposes of the Great Wall have included border controls, allowing the imposition of duties on goods transported along the Silk Road, regulation or encouragement of trade, and the control of immigration and emigration. Furthermore, the defensive characteristics of the Great Wall were enhanced by the construction of watchtowers, troop barracks, garrison stations, signaling capabilities through the means of smoke or fire, and the fact that the path of the Great Wall also served as a transportation corridor. The frontier walls, built by different dynasties, have multiple courses. Collectively, they stretch from Liaodong in the east to Lop Lake in the west, from the present-day Sino-Russian border in the north to Tao River, Taohe, in the south, along an arc that roughly delineates the edge of the Mongolian steppe, spanning 21,196.18 kilometers, or 13,170.70 miles in total. Today, the defensive system of the Great Wall is generally recognized as one of the most impressive architectural feats in history. In Chinese histories, the term Long Walls appears in Sima Qian's Records of the Grand Historian, where it referred both to the separate Great Walls built between and north of the warring states and to the more unified construction of the first emperor. The Chinese character Cheng, meaning city or fortress, is a phono-semantic compound of the earth radical and phonetic, whose Old Chinese pronunciation has been reconstructed as DNG. It originally referred to the rampart which surrounded traditional Chinese cities and was used by extension for these walls around their respective states. Today, however, it is much more often the Chinese word for city. The longer Chinese name 10,000-mile Long Wall came from Sima Qian's description of it in the records, though he did not name the walls as such. The AD 493 Book of Song quotes the frontier general Tan Daoji referring to the Long Wall of 10,000 miles closer to the modern name, but the name rarely features in pre-modern times otherwise. The traditional Chinese mile, li was an often irregular distance that was intended to show the length of a standard village and varied with terrain, but was usually standardized at distances around a third of an English mile, or 540 meters. However, this use of 10,000 is figurative in a similar manner to the Greek and English myriad, and simply means innumerable or immeasurable. Because of the wall's association with the first emperor's supposed tyranny, the Chinese dynasties after Qin usually avoided referring to their own additions to the wall by the name Long Wall. Instead, various terms were used in medieval records, including frontiers, ramparties, barriers, the outer fortresses, and the border walls. Poetic and informal names for the wall included the Purple Frontier and the Earth Dragon. Only during the Qing period did Long Wall become the catch-all term to refer to the many border walls, regardless of their location or dynastic origin, equivalent to the English Great Wall. Sections of the wall in the South Gobi Desert and Mongolian steppe are sometimes referred to as Wall of Genghis Khan, even though Genghis Khan did not construct any walls or permanent defense lines himself. The current English name evolved from accounts of the Chinese Wall from early modern European travelers. By the 19th century, the Great Wall of China had become standard in English and French, although other European languages such as German continue to refer to it as the Chinese Wall. The Great Wall of the Qin stretches from Lintao to Liaodong. The Chinese were already familiar with the techniques of wall building by the time of the Spring and Autumn period between the 8th and 5th centuries BC. During this time and the subsequent warring states period, the states of Qin, Wei, Zhao, Qi, Han, Yan and Zhongshan all constructed extensive fortifications to defend their own borders. Built to withstand the attack of small arms such as swords and spears, these walls were made mostly of stone or by stamping earth and gravel between board frames. The Great Wall of the Han is the longest of all walls, from Mamitu near Yumengguan to Liaodong. King Zheng of Qin conquered the last of his opponents and unified China as the first emperor of the Qin dynasty, Qin Shi Huang, in 221 BC. Intending to impose centralized rule and prevent the resurgence of feudal lords, he ordered the destruction of the sections of the walls that divided his empire among the former states. To position the empire against the Xiongnu people from the north, however, he ordered the building of new walls to connect the remaining fortifications along the empire's northern frontier. Build and move on was a central guiding principle in constructing the wall, implying that the Chinese were not erecting a permanently fixed border. Transporting the large quantity of materials required for construction was difficult, so builders always tried to use local resources. Stones from the mountains were used over mountain ranges, while rammed earth was used for construction in the plains. There are no surviving historical records indicating the exact length and course of the Qin walls. Most of the ancient walls have eroded away over the centuries, and very few sections remain today. The human cost of the construction is unknown, but it has been estimated by some authors that hundreds of thousands of workers died building the Qin wall. Later, the Han, the northern dynasties, and the Sui all repaired, rebuilt, or expanded sections of the Great Wall at great cost to defend themselves against northern invaders. The Tang and Song dynasties did not undertake any significant effort in the region. Dynasties founded by non-Han ethnic groups also built their border walls. The Xianbei ruled northern Wei, the Khitan ruled Liao, Jurchen led Jin, and the Tangut established western Xia, who ruled vast territories over northern China throughout centuries, all constructed defensive walls. But those were located much to the north of the other Great Walls as we know it, within China's autonomous region of Inner Mongolia and in modern-day Mongolia itself. The Great Wall concept was revived again under the Ming in the 14th century, and following the Ming army's defeat by the Oirats in the Battle of Tumu. The Ming had failed to gain a clear upper hand over the Mongol tribes after successive battles, and the long-drawn conflict was taking a toll on the empire. The Ming adopted a new strategy to keep the nomadic tribes out by constructing walls along the northern border of China. Acknowledging the Mongol control established in the Ordos Desert, the wall followed the desert's southern edge instead of incorporating the bend of the Yellow River. Unlike the earlier fortifications, the Ming construction was stronger and more elaborate due to the use of bricks and stone instead of rammed earth. Up to 25,000 watchtowers are estimated to have been constructed on the wall. As Mongol raids continued periodically over the years, the Ming devoted considerable resources to repair and reinforce the walls. Sections near the Ming capital of Beijing were especially strong. Qijiguang, between 1567 and 1570, also repaired and reinforced the wall, faced sections of the ram earth wall with bricks, and constructed 1,200 watchtowers from Shanhaiguan Pass to Changping to warn of approaching Mongol raiders. During the 1440s-1460s, the Ming also built a so-called Liaodong Wall, similar in function to the Great Wall, whose extension in a sense it was, but more basic in construction. The Liaodong Wall enclosed the agricultural heartland of the Liaodong province, protecting it against potential incursions by Jurchen Mongol Oryanghan from the northwest and the Jianzhou Jurchens from the north. While stones and tiles were used in some parts of the Liaodong Wall, most of it was in fact simply an earth dike with moats on both sides. Towards the end of the Ming, the Great Wall helped defend the empire against the Manchu invasions that began around 1600. Even after the loss of all of Liaodong, the Ming army held the heavily fortified Shanhai Pass, preventing the Manchus from conquering the Chinese heartland. The Manchus were finally able to cross the Great Wall in 1644, after Beijing had already fallen to Li Zicheng's short-lived Shun dynasty. Before this time, the Manchus had crossed the Great Wall multiple times to raid, but this time it was for conquest. The gates at Shanhai Pass were opened on May 25th by the commanding Ming general Wu Sangui, who formed an alliance with the Manchus, hoping to use the Manchus to expel the rebels from Beijing. The Manchus quickly seized Beijing and eventually defeated both the Shun dynasty and the remaining Ming resistance, consolidating the rule of the Qing dynasty over all of China proper. Under Qing rule, China's borders extended beyond the walls, and Mongolia was annexed into the empire, so constructions on the Great Wall were discontinued. On the other hand, the so-called Willow Palisade, following a line similar to that of the Ming Liaodong Wall, was constructed by the Qing rulers in Manchuria. Its purpose, however, was not defense, but rather to prevent Han Chinese migration into Manchuria. The Great Wall of China cannot be seen by the naked human eye from the moon. Even though the myth is thoroughly debunked, it is still ingrained in popular culture. The apparent width of the Great Wall from the moon would be the same as that of a human hair viewed from 3 kilometers or 2 miles away. One of the earliest known references to the myth that the Great Wall can be seen from the moon appears in a letter written in 1754 by the English antiquary William Stukely. Stukely wrote that this mighty wall, Hadrian's Wall, of 80 miles, 130 kilometers in length, is only exceeded by the Chinese Wall, which makes a considerable figure upon the terrestrial globe and may be discerned at the moon. The claim was also mentioned by Henry Norman in 1895, where he states, besides its age, it enjoys the reputation of being the only work of human hands on the globe visible from the moon. The issue of canals on Mars was prominent in the late 19th century and may have led to the belief that long, thin objects were visible from space. The claim that the Great Wall is visible from the moon also appears in 1932's Ripley's Believe It or Not strip.